Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. It appears that the United States government is trying to prepare evangelicals in the country for the impending news that we are not alone. That's what it appears like, based on some new reporting. There was a post, or a lot of people were posting about this on X over the last couple of days, and this was a pastor, a televangelist named Perry Stone, who said that some of his colleagues let him know that they were invited to some sort of a meeting with government officials where the government officials told them it's time to prepare their followers for disclosure, apparently. But there's going to be some information coming out about UFOs and reptilians that may be shattering to some of them and their beliefs, and they're trying to prepare those people for what's coming by talking to the pastors that preach to them on a regular basis. Anyway, here was a post on Twitter X. This was Red Panda Koala, and he writes, Pastor Perry Stone claims pastors are being warned to prepare their congregations for UFO and alien information being released. There were a large number of pastors that had them invited to go to a certain state to hear some men in the United States government to hear concerns they had. That's a direct quote from Perry Stone. There's going to be a release concerning aliens and unidentified flying object spacecraft. Some of the people who were in the meeting were telling us as pastors, you need to prepare your people and you need to prepare to answer them for what's about to be released. Some of it has to do with craft that have been discovered that are not a part of our planet, very strange reptilian-looking creatures, and other things that sound out of a science fiction movie. And here's a little short video clip with this guy, pastor, televangelist Perry Stone, talking about this. Here's what he says.
I had a friend that sent me a text message. I was in a meeting, a weekend meeting, preaching Friday, Saturday, and Sunday morning. And he said, Perry, can you give me a call? I have some information that has come to my attention. Of course, when a friend of yours does that you know quite well, you have no idea what information they're talking about. And I'm not going to go into great detail, but there were a large number of pastors that had been invited to go to a certain state to hear some men in the United States government and others share with them a concern that they had. And this particular man, and I'll not name him, and then we may end up doing some teachings with him or having an event at his church. He has a great church. But he said, Perry, what they're about to release, from what we're hearing, there's going to be a release concerning aliens and concerning unidentified flying object spacecraft that some of the people who were in the meeting were telling us as pastors, you need to prepare your people and you need to get ready to answer them for what you're about to hear being released. And some of it has to do with crafts that have been discovered that are not allegedly a part of our planet, and the materials they're made of are not a part of our planet. Very strange reptilian-looking creatures and other things that almost sound like something out of a sci-fi movie or an Orson Welles book.
All right, so there you go. That's this pastor Perry Stone, and he also has there's a link here on the same. I'll leave a link for all of this stuff, but there's a link to the full video where he's talking about this on YouTube. Beware of deceptive government reports. The bottom line is this: a lot of evangelicals don't like this. They're not going to agree with this. They'll have a different explanation for it. And this guy here, if you watch his full video, he thinks that this is some sort of a big deceitful thing that's about to happen, because he doesn't apparently believe in this kind of thing. He doesn't believe in non-human intelligent beings or aliens or anything to that matter, and he thinks it's all silly apparently. And he thinks it's got some sort of a big deception. There was another thing here. This was. Okay, and here is an overview of that, of what's going on with this story that was assembled here by Twitter's Grok, or X's Grok AI chatbot. And it says here, with regard to this, it says in a YouTube video from April 27th, Perry Stone of Voice and Evangelism Ministries recounted a secondhand story. United States officials allegedly briefed pastors on upcoming releases about non-Earth crafts, reptilian creatures, and more. Stone ties it to biblical warnings of deception, possible apostasy, or a rapture cover-up, while his son suspects government fabrication. One pastor, Alan DiDio, claimed he attended the meeting and backed Stone's account, but no names, dates, locations, or other evidence have surfaced amid divided reactions from UFO fans, skeptics, and religious voices. Okay, let me just put something out here. First off, right? Perry Stone is not making this up. This guy's not going to come on his channel and make something like this up. It would make absolutely no sense. And he actually has somebody else that's a different pastor that says he was at the meeting. This Alan DiDio claims that he was there. Why would evangelical pastors make something like this up? Right? That's not going to happen. And on top of it, they're saying he doesn't believe in it. He thinks it's all some sort of a deception of some kind, right? He doesn't think that could be possibly true. I mean, a lot of conservative Christians do not believe in the possibility of aliens because there's nothing mentioned in the Bible about this. And I'm sure this is going to be the same across a lot of religions. I know I've talked about this over the last 4 or 5 years on different occasions, but, the Catholic Church, for instance, has been preparing behind the scenes for this for a long time, from what I understand, from different articles that I have read over the years. And just even recently, earlier this year, there was more chatter about that. And I believe that the church is ready to discuss this publicly, and they don't have a problem with it. I mean, actually, I remember reading there was one priest who was stating that he thinks that, if God's capable of making this earth and all the people on it, then why waste all that space out there? Why not make other life forms out there? There's there's going to be all kinds of arguments and discussions from the religious vantage point once this disclosure happens, if indeed it does happen. It could happen any time. It could happen any moment. For all I know, maybe all these videos and reports that President Trump has been talking about will be released before I get finished this podcast here today. I don't know, but there's been a lot of discussion about this lately. A lot of different people in Congress, like Eric Burleson, Tim Burchett, Anna Paulina Luna. There's a bunch of different people. It's a bipartisan effort. This is like the only issue seemingly within Congress where everyone agrees. They think that the truth needs to be told. Right? It's both sides of the aisle seem to be in agreement on this. And at the same time, it seems you hear Trump talking recently about things are going to be getting released soon, and now you're hearing this. So this must have happened. I don't know. I know at this point we don't have the absolute proof that there was this meeting with government officials and evangelical pastors, but I have to believe that it happened. I mean, what Perry Stone, he says his colleagues called him up and told him about this, right? He's not making it up. I mean, I'm sure he doesn't think that it's going to involve real aliens, but this is what they're being told. Evangelicals, it's going to be a hard sell for because of their religious beliefs. And let's go over that. I put some information here together with regard to what evangelicals, how they view the possibility of non-human intelligence or extraterrestrials. And basically, evangelicals don't all agree on aliens or non-human intelligence, but there are a few clear patterns in how the topic is usually approached. The key factor is how seriously they take the authority of the Bible and how they interpret it. So number one, skeptical or dismissive. That's probably the majority view. Many evangelicals assume extraterrestrial life is unlikely or irrelevant because the Bible is silent on it. Their reasoning often goes like this. Scripture focuses entirely on Earth and humanity's relationship with God, so introducing intelligent beings elsewhere feels theologically unnecessary. For them, UFO claims are usually explained as hoaxes, misidentifications, or psychological phenomena. Number two, if they exist, they're still God's creation. They're moderately open to this one. Some evangelicals are open to the possibility of alien life, but don't see it as a threat to Christianity. Influential figures like Billy Graham suggested that if other beings exist, they would simply be part of God's creation, no different in principle from humans, angels, or animals. This group tends to say the Bible doesn't mention aliens, but it also doesn't explicitly rule them out. And then number 3, the demonic deception interpretation, a more hardline segment, especially in conservative or apocalyptic circles, interprets UFOs or alleged alien encounters as spiritual deception. In this view, aliens aren't extraterrestrials at all, but manifestations of demonic forces meant to mislead humanity. This idea has been promoted by some evangelical authors and pastors, including people like Chuck Missler. It often overlaps with end times thinking, where deception increases before events described in books like Revelation. And finally, number 4, the theological problem angle. Some evangelicals wrestle with deeper questions. Did Jesus' sacrifice apply only to humans on earth or to all intelligent beings? Would aliens have their own fall and redemption story? Are they unfallen like angels or fallen like humans? So there's a lot of different ways that evangelicals throughout this United States and across the world, as well as all different sorts of religions, are going to have a different view on this once the truth does come out. And it's going to come out at some point, one way or the other, whether it's going to come out this summer and we're going to finally get something from the government that's substantial, that takes us across the red line. It's either going to happen now, this summer, or it's going to happen sometime in the future. But it's going to happen. It's just inevitable. I mean, actually, Richard Dolan, if you I'm sure a lot of you follow his shows. He had some really brilliant shows recently. I recommend you check them out because he was discussing about some of these very topics, and it's brilliant stuff, I got to say. But yeah, I think it's going to be this is going to cause some problems for people once the truth comes out. I've talked about this before, and it could be it's going to be very upsetting for some people. They're going to be suffering from cognitive dissonance when this happens, because they're not going to know. You're going to be seeing information from the government that's showing you that this is a real phenomenon, and we have recovered craft and alien bodies, and maybe there were some live ones. I don't know what we're going to get. I don't know how far they're going to go. It's seeing is believing when it comes to this, right? It hasn't happened to this point, but the way people are talking these days, it's starting to feel like maybe something's going to happen here, doesn't it? I mean, it might just happen. Let's see. There's a lot of different angles to this too, by the way. I mean, here was something today. This was posted by Disclosure Party on X, or actually yesterday. And it's with regard to Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, the former director of the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. As we know, he's someone who has been caught lying time and time again over the last couple of years about what the government knows and doesn't know about UFOs and aliens. And he completely, some of the lies he's been caught in, we've talked about those before, but now he's making this statement, which I find really, really interesting. He says, this is what the post says about Kirkpatrick. It says, the former director of the Pentagon's UFO office, Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, criticized the president and said his promises to release UFO files was bluster and a shiny object to distract Americans from the war with Iran. Sean Kirkpatrick says he has seen the government's UFO files and there are no revelations to be found. Well, that's an outright lie. I mean, right there, that's an outright lie. I mean, whether or not he's right about Trump, the only reason he's trying to do this is to distract from the war with Iran. That could be the case. Maybe it is the case. Maybe it's not the case. Maybe this whole disclosure that's going to happen right now was something that was planned by a long time ago. And maybe it was something that was in the cards no matter what, no matter who was president at this point. We don't know, right? I mean, again, this is the only subject, it seems, where Democrats and Republicans get along, right? So this could have been something that was in the cards a long time ago and it was going to happen regardless. We just can't say. Maybe this was planned even during the Obama administration, for all we know, and we're building up to this moment. We just don't know, right? But it could or could not be. But the fact of the matter is he's lying here. He's saying that the government's UFO files, there's no revelations there to be found. He's lying. There's most certainly going to be revelations there. Revelations with regard to what happened in Roswell. There's no question that a craft came down in Roswell. Too many witnesses. We talked about this a million times before. So I don't know. What's the end game here? Like, what happens once the information comes out finally, somehow? If it does, like, say it does. Say we do get disclosure. Say the administration and the Pentagon finally takes us across that red line that Dolan always talks about, right? Say that finally happens. What does Kirkpatrick and all these other people say then? I mean, they're just setting themselves up for disaster. That's what they're doing. I mean, to me, he's already a proven liar, but this will just go to show that he's a bigger liar than we could even have imagined, to be blatantly saying this stuff in public. But obviously, there are forces here. He wouldn't be doing this, right? He wouldn't be talking like this if he didn't really believe that this was never going to be made public. He must really think that this is not going to come out, that we're not going to get across that red line. He must know something that the rest of us don't know. Either that or he's just a blatant liar and he doesn't care what his legacy is. I guess we're going to find out as soon as we get these files or whatever they're planning to release. But again, I'll be surprised if it's everything. I'll be surprised if they actually do take us across that red line. Seeing is believing. When it comes to the government and UFOs, like I've always stated, you can't trust them. It's really hard to trust them, right? But if they come out with all the records on Roswell, if they show us some images of the bodies, if they're telling these pastors they're going to be releasing information about reptilians, right? Is that really going to happen? Is that what they're planning? If that kind of stuff comes out, wow, that would be amazing. I would think it would be, fantastic. And it would be interesting to see, how the world reacts finally. When you actually have government officials, United States government officials, showing you the proof and saying, this is it, folks. We're not alone. Like, what happens next? I don't know. We'll find out. I would imagine that it's going to affect a lot of people who are very religious. Doesn't really matter what kind of religion. If it doesn't align with their religious beliefs, and there's going to be a lot of issues for some people, right? Some people just still won't believe it, right? But it's going to be interesting to hear what happens with the debunkers out there and the liars, the government agents who are apparently, right, like Sean Kirkpatrick. What do they say then? You were lying the whole time. What is this? Does he go into hiding then or something? Does he never face a camera in public again? Like, how does that work? Because I know that he's lying. I mean, the previous show that I did last week, I just want to let you know, I had to take a break for a few days. I had some things to take care of in my private life after I finished that episode. But I'll tell you what, I mean, we already have the evidence in the public domain. It's over. It is over, right? I know that a lot of people don't know this in the rest of the world, and it's getting suppressed. But we already have the evidence out there. So what are these people doing? Why are they continuing to lie? Why not just come out with it already? The whole thing. That's what seems like what might happen now. That's what seemingly we might get something where we finally the world knows. Then finally, that's what it sounds like. But until I see it, I won't believe it. I hope so. I really do. But until we get it, I can't really say. You really can't say. All right. Now moving on here. I want to talk about, there was another story that popped up today that I found very interesting. We've been talking about these different people who have been who disappeared or died mysteriously, different people who have apparent connections to UFOs, like the guy who went missing back in February 27th, Major McCaslin, right? General McCaslin, General William Neal McCaslin he disappeared in New Mexico on February 27th, and he hasn't been seen since. And there were other people who have been gone missing over the last couple of years too, that were connected to the government and potentially UFO programs, secret UFO programs. And now we have a news story here, and this was with regard to somebody who disappeared back in 2001 and whose body was then later found in 2002, and that is Chandra Levy. And that the parents of Chandra Levy have been on TV recently saying that they think it's possible that maybe she died because of her knowledge of UFOs. Now, Chandra Levy, she was a federal intern, and she disappeared back in 2001, and then her body was found in Washington, D.C.'s Rock Creek Park in 2002. And she had a romantic relationship apparently with this a representative at the time named Gary Condit of California. And they had a 5-month relationship, and then he was getting the finger pointed at him about this. But then some other guy got arrested, but then was ultimately released. Here's an article about this in Newsweek. It says, parents link UFO theory to federal intern Chandra Levy's death. It says the parents of a federal intern who was found dead in 2002 questioned whether she was killed for knowing too much about UFOs in a News Nation interview. Chandra Levy, a 24-year-old Federal Bureau of Prisons intern went missing in 2001, and her body was found in Washington, D.C.'s Rock Creek Park in 2002. Her disappearance gained international attention after she was romantically linked to then Representative Gary Condit of California. He was questioned about the disappearance, but police said he was not involved. In the wake of the scandal in which Condit admitted to a 5-month relationship with Levy, he lost his re-election bid in the Democratic primary in 2002. The new theory shared Thursday by Chandra's parents, Susan Levy and Robert Levy, comes amid speculation regarding a series of people in the science-based industry who have died or gone missing in the past 4 years. Authorities have not confirmed any connection between any of the cases, but speculation over potential links to UFO research continues to grow. And then this is what her parents said. Susan said she remembered Chandra telling her that Condit was on an intelligence committee. She says, "Oh, he believes in UFOs like I do, and that he deals with this stuff." So then it left me thinking, knowing Chandra, she's very inquisitive. Could she have known something that she wasn't supposed to know? And could it have been wiped? And could she have been wiped out because she knew too much, Susan said. The parents said they had been told not to touch the subject. There are a lot of people who are afraid, and they are people who have spent a lot of time in government work, Susan said. Robert said that around the same time Chandra was in Washington, there was a conference on UFOs with witnesses and whistleblowers on the subject. At that time, Chandra mentioned something that she knew about the UFOs, and Congressman Condit was on the committee to learn about UFOs, he said. And then says here that she was last seen alive 25 years ago at a gym near her apartment in Washington on April 30th, 2001. More than a year after her disappearance, a hiker found her remains in a secluded area of Rock Creek Park. Her death was ruled a homicide. A Salvadoran immigrant named Ingmar Guandaki was convicted of Chandra's killing in 2010, and he had previously been convicted of attacking other women in the park. But he was granted a new trial in 2015 when it was revealed that a key prosecution witness may have provided false testimony, but prosecutors announced they would not seek a retrial the following year. He was released and later deported to El Salvador. So, what do I think about this one? I don't know. I mean, like I've said in the previous shows when I was talking about the disappearances and the mysterious deaths, you can't say. You just don't know. There's just not a lot there. It does look fishy, right? I really think for the one, I think, the General McCaslin, that is very odd, particularly because he was involved in UFO disclosure efforts, right? And then suddenly, a week after Donald Trump says he's going to be releasing all these files, he disappears off the face of the earth. I find that very, very strange, right? And there were other people there too like this. But really him. And then the other one too was Amy Eskridge, the scientist, the anti-gravity scientist who stated up and down to people around her, hey, if something happens to me, believe me, it's not me. I'm not going to kill myself. This, she keeps telling people this, and then she ends up apparently killing herself, right? And a lot of people are thinking that maybe the government had something to do with that. That one too, to me, does seem fishy, even though her father doesn't believe that's the case. But a lot of other people think that there could be something going on there. And there could be when you really think about it. If Amy Eskridge, right, let's think about this. If she's working on anti-gravity technology, right, and she's going to be putting a paper out on this, isn't that dangerous from the point of view of the Pentagon, from the point of view of any sort of secrecy group, right? It would be, right, because then that information's out in the public, right? It's, who knows, maybe there's somebody out there that could figure something out themselves, right? That's dangerous to them. So that's why, to me, it is possible that's why she ended up dying the way she did. Maybe she didn't kill herself like it seemed like she seemingly did. Maybe something else happened there to make it look like that because of what she was planning to do with her knowledge on anti-gravity technology. Maybe that's what it is, right? We just can't, but we don't know. There's no evidence there at this point. And here's the thing. I think the one thing I am in favor of that I bring up every now and then is I think that there needs to be amnesty. I think the slate needs to be wiped clean for the UFO control group. I really believe that. I know some people don't agree with me on this one, and that's fine. But I do think just for the sake of getting this over with, right? You don't prosecute anyone, except, right? Here's the one exception. Anybody that, if it turns out that that people were murdered or they vanished because of this, right? And there are people within the government that were able to figure out are those that they're the responsible party, right? They need to be prosecuted and thrown in jail and thrown a key away, right? That's what needs to happen there. If there's anyone responsible for murdering people. And you hear this. Now you hear it from whistleblowers like David Grush, there's Lou Elizondo, there's a lot of different people in the government or connected to the government who say they get threats on a regular basis, right? Those people are the ones who get threats. It's funny, right? There's a lot of different people out in the public domain, people who write books all the time, talking about UFOs all the time, but they don't usually get threatened, right? It's the people who have some sort of government knowledge. It's always usually those are the people that get the threats, right? I mean, there are other people out in the public, right, over the decades. I mean, for instance, the witnesses to the Roswell crash, right? How many different witnesses said they were threatened? Right, the threats started back in the 1940s, I believe. I think it started with Roswell, and it just continued up until this point. And sometimes I think they act out on their threats. I think it's very possible. There's just too many disappearances. There's like what, 5 people that they disappeared off the face of the planet, right? That are connected to this kind of thing, and within the government, they're just gone. And then you have these other people dying. Now, with regard to Chandra Levy's case, I mean, if she was an intern for the Federal Bureau of Prisons and she was just hearing some stuff back and forth from this Congressman Condit, who she was romantically involved with, I mean, what damage could she possibly do, right, to any sort of cover up? I don't know about. That's why I don't know about this one. Right. In fact, my opinion at this point is no. I know unfortunately, for the parents, they have to deal with this for the rest of their lives. It's 25 years ago now when unfortunately when their daughter was found murdered like that. And it's just a terrible thing, and they really don't have the full answer on what happened here. I mean, there was a guy arrested and charged with it, and now he was set free because there was some of the evidence was no good. So who was responsible for her death? I guess that's because it's still up in the air, but I don't know if it was because of UFOs. Now, had she been a scientist working on some sort of a program, or a scientist like Amy Eskridge, who had an anti-gravity technology paper that she was planning to release, okay, maybe then there's some concern. Maybe then you start thinking that, but I don't see just someone learning stuff. That's like the UFO investigator Leonard Stringfield. He was getting all these reports from different people who worked on the reverse engineering programs, right? I mean, he lived his life and then died naturally in 1994, right? So it wasn't like nothing happened to him like that, right? So I don't know. I don't think that this has anything to do with UFOs, even though the parents think that could be the case. It doesn't make me right. Maybe there's something that she did know, or something that she could have shown to people. I don't know, but I don't think so. I don't think there's enough evidence there with regard to that one. Although I should be looked into at this point, based on some of the comments made by the parents. It should still be investigated at the same point, but I don't think you're going to find out that she was killed because of UFOs. I just don't see that at this point, but you never know. You just don't know. Okay, now one more thing I just want to talk about here. I want to thank all the people who provided all the comments and for my more recent video where I talked about the 3rd anniversary of the Las Vegas alien incident. And I was thinking, after looking at all these comments over the last couple of days, I think it's I know now that it's not me being crazy. I just want to point something out here. This is really funny, right? Now, I've been talking about this case for the most part for the past, even though it happened 3 years ago, I really didn't start talking about it until a little over 2 years ago, right? In when Scott Roeder made that revelation about that this proves that we're not alone. That revelation where he was able to prove that the aliens were in that video, right? I've been talking about this for 2 years, right? Think about this. I want to really think about this. To this point, right? Nobody. Right? No one has even talked about me being crazy or something. I haven't received a letter from the government saying we think you're crazy or anything. Nothing. No acknowledgement from anybody. Right? Nobody from the government. Not even from the UAP caucus. Nothing from them ever. Right? Nothing. Debunkers. I remember Mick West turned down $5,000 to do a analysis of it from Scott Roeder. He wouldn't do it, right? Nobody wants to touch it with a 10-foot pole. They don't even want to acknowledge it. They don't want to talk about it because they know if they do, then people will start looking into it and realize what it represents. That's what's going on here. Think about it. I mean, there's not anybody even doing a show out there talking about how crazy I am. I mean, think about it. They can't do it. That's why. Because if they do it, it's going to shine a spotlight on that case, and then they're going to be the ones looking like the liars in the end of it. And I know I'm not crazy, by the way, because look at all of these comments I received. I just want to go through some of the comments from everybody here. This was on YouTube. It says here, this is from It's the G Show, says the most important story in history. That got 75 thumbs up from people. Here's another one from me. Plus, I gave it a heart. Look at all these comments from different people who think that this story is incredible to them, and they believe that it proves that we're not alone. Here's somebody else from Bullock 4211. You're the only one who continues beating the drum to this Las Vegas incident long after the band left. Never give up. Don't ever give up. Trippy Noor says, I can't get enough of this Vegas story. It's so insane what happened. I believe them. They sound so scared. Somebody else, Dominic James 3000, writes, damn, I can't believe it was 3 years ago. Damien in Demands writes, this story never gets old. Thank you for the coverage. Empress Chernobyl writes, wow, this is the first time I've ever heard the full 911 call. Thanks, Jim. Let's see. Somebody else said this was the podcast fan says this is the story that got him hooked to this channel. Mothership New York says third anniversary of the best alien evidence ever captured on film. Right? Look at all these people that are saying this. Right? There was some people that actually I don't know. There was one comment I saw was someone never saw the aliens before, but that episode they finally were able to see them. Here was some guy says I seen the light coming down here in Vegas. One guy said he's seen them during the day. Somebody else, Plutus Power says, I would have to still say this is my favorite case of the Extraterrestrial Reality Show podcast. There's just so many good comments here. This guy says this was a grand slam and there isn't anything more important than this Las Vegas incident at the moment. You should keep it as your intro. Good job. I mean, there's just a lot of different people here that see the evidence and they know what it means, right? And so I know I'm not crazy. All these other people can't be crazy, and that goes to show you, right? The reason nobody wants to talk about this because they know what it would mean. Everyone will see it then. If everyone starts talking about this case or talking about the evidence that we've been showing on here, right? Then everyone's going to come here and they're going to look at it and they're going to know that they won't have to wait to see what the government does here in the next coming weeks or months, right? They won't have to. They'll know. Oh my God, we're not alone. Look at it. So that's why nobody wants to talk about it, right? They won't even talk about if I'm crazy or not. Okay, maybe I'm a little bit crazy, right? That might be true, right? However, I can tell you this. I know I'm perfectly 100% right with this when it comes to this story. I know my reporting is spot on. And to this point, nobody, right, has been able to debunk it. And they never will be able to debunk it because as you've seen in that episode, there's just no way, right? There's just too much, way too much. So that's why that's the way it is. That's why things are the way they are and why they will remain this way, right? I don't know. Maybe if information coming forth from the government soon, maybe that will change this, right? And then maybe more people will find out about this case, right? But right now, the mainstream news, like I've been saying, along with the government, they do not want to even acknowledge this. They don't want to talk about it. They know what this case represents. I just want to point that out. Anyway, I just want to say this. I want to say thank you all for joining me here today. Until next time.